Welcome to Wash Talk, the Car Wash podcast. I'm Maddie Weiner, and joining me today is Harry Caruso, founder and CEO of Car Wash Advisory. Welcome back to Wash Talk, Harry.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So on today's episode, we're discussing how macro trends are affecting operators and the car wash industry in general in 2023. So my first question is, in your opinion, has the car wash market cooled in 2023 in terms of M&A activity and growth among the market's biggest chains?
Yeah, it's a really good question. There's certainly a lot of talk about it, right? A ton. Here's what's interesting. So we keep a close eye on transactional volume across the industry. And oddly enough, if you look at it year over year, first quarter of, call it 22 versus 23, the total number of car washes that were acquired by site count has actually gone up or gone down dramatically compared to the year prior.
Oh, wow.
But, and this is where it gets kind of really interesting, is the actual number of transactions has gone up. So we're seeing a lot more small transactions, which has a lot to do with the interest rate environment as we head into this year.
That's interesting. Okay. Wow. So you mentioned interest rates, but what are some other, leading factors contributing to this deceleration?
Yeah, so this slowdown, right? This is actually a really good point. So it leads in very nicely with the last question.
Okay.
So why do we have a slowdown as a whole? And then also why are there a lot more little transactions and no big ones?
Yeah.
The reason is exactly that. The interest rate hike created a huge level of uncertainty rolling into the end of last year.
Okay.
So basically all the big guys who may or may not have had large scale transactions planned kind of threw it in neutral or even reverse and put things on pause due to the abnormal level of risk associated with this level of uncertainty.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But the singles and doubles, if you will, full force ahead. What other factors? The other big factor here is actually what's next, which sounds very generalistic, but it's very pointed by way of, at this point, we have such a large populace of car wash operators and chains that are in this 25 to 200 site range.
Okay.
And the question is, well, where's that incremental exit for them, or what's next for them? And it can't be pure organic growth across the board. And right now, I would say more so than ever before, especially even before Mr. went public, there's less certainty as to what that exit potentially could look like than ever before.
So succession plans are sort of up in the air or
public market reception, whether or not there's a wallet big enough and there's the appetite for this. And then we've never really seen huge, large scale strategic to strategic acquisitions and transactions in the space. So it would be a first.
Okay. Very interesting. So Harry, in your opinion, what are all operators' top concerns heading into the second half of this year?
Yeah, so we're fortunate enough to hear a lot of operators' concerns, as you can imagine.
Right.
And the one that is by far the most common across the board, and quite frankly, it has been for year to date and the tail end of last year certainly, is people building and opening car washes across the street or in very, very close proximity to their current sites.
Okay.
Do you want to know the answer? I don't really have a solution to fix it. It's a really, really good concern, but it's ubiquitous throughout the entire industry. And we are seeing now some levels of population density that otherwise would have never had, let's say, 2 or 3 big tunnels built.
Right.
We do now. So it's kind of, is there a safe spot? Well, no, but you definitely have to be a good operator and then it'll all work out, I think.
Yeah, okay. So more competition down the street is sort of a concern for the second half of this year,
Big
for sure,
time.
heading into next year as well. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So which external and internal trends are you keeping an eye on as we head into Q3 and Q4? I know you mentioned some of them, but are any others that you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, so the big one, and this is really exciting for me because I do enjoy very much so the data side and this sort of psychological side in terms of consumer behavior and demand. So we finally, and actually a small positive comment towards Steve Gaudreau, who wrote an article in PC&D that was wonderfully done on this topic, which is the real thing that we're trying to calculate is multivariable calculations around when do we reach critical saturation in a market? When are there too many washes? What is too much? And there's a lot of confluence and other variables that can be overlaid, but finally, we have enough data to do it, and we have the data with unlimited memberships present. So that's what we're watching most of all.
Okay. I would assume that depends on the market, obviously how big the market is, and any big players that are there and stuff like that. Can you maybe go into some of the factors that affect that?
So we're playing around with some naive, maybe correlation but lacking causation factors for the fun of it, which is actually proving to be quite interesting. But on the most core of the bases, what's an interesting finding is that and you have to sort of proxy into this through various ways, but if whatever measure you're using to show, do people in this market already or prior there to all these new builds, did they already wash their cars? And if they did, the uptake and growth curve and saturation point seem to be very, very different than that of a populace that didn't.
Okay.
So there still is preconceived or pre-existing behavior bias.
I would assume there's no magic number.
No.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more on that. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Very cool. So, Harry, do you have any closing thoughts or advice for operators who might be operating a car wash business, during this possible recession for the first time?
Yeah, I guess. But it's really, from everything I've learned from all the operators who have been in this through the recessions, right? And it's definitely not recession-proof, but similar to most businesses, if you really sort of double down on your core competency, which in this industry is the service and the product offering at hand, you'll be fine, right? Obviously, imprudent financial leverage or engineering prior thereto can certainly cause issues, but at its crux, if you're a good car wash operator providing a good service, you should be fine.
Yeah, good service always wins in the end.
One way or another, yeah.
Awesome, great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. We really appreciate it, Harry.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Our guest today has been Harry Caruso of Car Wash Advisory. For more information, please visit carwashadvisory.com.